Hola, Minasan! Welcome back for another round of Warhammer research. Going into a new channel today, Baldermort's Guide to Warhammer channel for more Tyranid lore research. This video is titled Tyranid lore Hive Fleet Leviathan. Tyranids are pretty tough to find, and I think I may have exhausted the resources, so I'm probably going to do one more video after this one and move on to the next group. I'm not sure what more. I don't even know. I've been seeing videos saying the Great Devourer, so I don't know if that's the nickname for Tyranids as a whole, or if there's actually a creature called the Great Devourer. If there is, let me know in the comments. Because I would like to look for it and do one more research on that, and then I think I'll move on to the next one after that video. Because yeah, there's not much to the Tyranids. They're pretty straightforward. You know, they're pretty straightforward. Clearly, not much lore coming out of them and everything, which is it's unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? But I guess, you know, when you have a hive mind group, you don't have much to go with. I mean, to compare, Star Trek's The Borg, we only know of Wolf 359. I probably got the numbers wrong. You know, the Battle of Wolf, and of course, them taking on species was it 8469? Completely forgot the number. I don't know, I just keep forgetting these numbers here. But yeah, you know, so when you have a hive mind that really a collective, you have very little lore to have with, because they just only have one objective. So yeah, so it's all right. You know what I'm saying? That was a very good, it was still a very good chunk of information coming out of it. So yeah, one more video after this one, and then I'll move on to the next faction. So yeah, Baldermort's Guide to Warhammer channel, link down in the description below. Tyranid lore Hive Fleet Leviathan, that's the name of this next video to research. Be sure to join me on my post-research thoughts after this, and this is a call to action. Comment, like, subscribe, follow, hit the notification button, and let us resume the research. Baldermort introduces Idic Beer, Wargamers Unification Group.
Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, and I wish to introduce you to the factions and forces of the Warhammer 40k universe. Today, let us discuss the most dangerous of all of the hives of the Great Devourer, the Tyranids.
Ooh.
But please do bear in mind that this is an introduction only. I will go into greater depths on the Tyranids in general, and Hive Fleet Leviathan in specific, as time permits. So, let us begin. Hive Fleet Leviathan is by far the largest, most tactically and strategically savvy, the most biologically powerful of all of the hive fleets yet to arrive in the Milky Way galaxy. Leviathan's onward rush has clearly shown the unfathomable danger of the swarms to the entire galaxy, which they now invade. The threat is so dire, so intense, so real, that once implacable enemies will need forge alliances if they wish to even hope to survive. So great a threat that even the silent king of the Necrons, that ancient army of soulless killers who despise everything and anyone who draws breath, even he has come back from his abdication to lead his race and to forge accords with the other inhabitants of the galaxy, all to the one point: the resistance of the Great Devourer, the Tyranids.
Okay.
Now,
wow.
Let's lean on existing wisdom before we get to the heart of the matter.
I gotta say, that's a pretty cool design Tyranid. So wow, even the most nastiest of kings had to come back to just to deal with this threat. That's actually pretty scary when you depict it like that.
Hive Fleet Leviathan. At the close of the 41st millennium, the largest and greatest of the Tyranid hive fleets descended upon the galaxy. The hive mind had learnt well the lessons of its earlier invasions, and its new fleet, Leviathan, employed these teachings to the detriment of all other life it encountered. Once again, it was Inquisitor Cryptman who alerted the High Lords of Terror to the new Tyranid hive fleet. one of terrible size that he named Leviathan. Where the other Hive fleets had attacked the eastern fringe, striking the galaxy edge-on as they emerged from the intergalactic void, this new Hive fleet appeared to have skirted the galactic rim and was now attacking upwards through the galactic
There's
plane.
McCrog.
As with Kraken before, Leviathan did not focus its forces into a singular killing blow, but attacked across a broad front. Leviathan's tendrils stretched across the segmentums Ultima, Tempestus, and even Solar. By the time Inquisitor Krypton could raise the alarm, Leviathan had already advanced far, and the shadow in the warp that heralded its coming had orphaned dozens of worlds. The worlds of Valador and St. Capilline had already been lost. The forge world of Gryphon IV, home of the mighty War Griffons Titan Legion, had fallen ominously silent, and the agri world of Tarsis Ultra was embroiled in a bloody battle for survival.
Let me put this. Let me comprehend what I'm seeing here on this map. Considering how big space is, they got far. That's a lot of space. That is a lot of space. The Leviathan reached out. Like, I mean, this is a lot of space here where Hydra is at, but this is insane. This is a chunk of a galaxy. This has to be millions of light years. They even got very close to Holy Terra. That's insane. Jeez. They were, let's see, and then they were coming in from the other sides too. But those are the smaller fleets, and they were only entering in from one direction, you know, like this. This one here just came in and just had tendrils reach out. Jeez, and again, this is just one. This is not even the actual fleet itself. This is just one fleet.
Morale of the Imperium's forces began to plunge as more worlds were consumed, and with every planet devoured, Leviathan grew stronger. With a grim finality, Inquisitor Krypton ordered that a galactic cordon be established. His plan was that a band of worlds should be evacuated across the path of Leviathan's main advance, with many of them razed to the ground in order to deny the Hive fleet any further raw materials for its ships. This would slow its advance long enough for battle fleets Solar and Tempestus to muster. Any worlds already under invasion,
guys, that looks beautiful, this art,
would undergo exterminatus, just at the point when the Tyranids descended to feed upon the doomed populace. Krypton theorized that using this method, the swarms would expend great resources to claim a world, only to have every living thing upon it reduced to ash by
Krypton's scorch earth method
and virus bombs. With one stark and callous decision, Krypton had condemned billions of souls to extermination.
Yeah.
To this day, it remains the single largest act of genocide ever inflicted upon the Imperium by its own forces since the Horus Heresy.
Oh.
Krypton's decision to abandon hundreds of Imperial worlds in the face of the alien advance was met by howls of outrage by his peers. This butcher's bill was deemed intolerable, and many influential inquisitors called for Krypton to be declared excommunicate traitores. When dozens of the cleansed worlds were claimed by the ever-expanding Orcs of Octarius, Krypton's detractors cursed him for a radical, a traitor, and a fool.
They wogged.
A Carta Extremis was issued, stripping Krypton of his title and forcing him into exile as a criminal of the worst kind. However, the fact remained that the inexorable advance of Leviathan had slowed to a crawl. Krypton had bought the Imperium time, that most valuable of commodities, at the expense of 100 worlds. He had resolved that the many lives he had sacrificed would not be lost in vain, and had put into action a plan aimed not merely at slowing the advance of Hive Fleet Leviathan, but at dealing it a fatal blow. Despite being cast out of the Inquisition, Krypton could not abandon his fight against the Hive Mind. As Leviathan continued to spread its tendrils into the Imperium, he took it upon himself to harness the power of the Swarm. The former Inquisitor claimed that he could not only defeat Leviathan, but in doing so, he could rid the Imperium of the galaxy's native enemies. Though many of his few remaining allies labelled him a reckless menace, it could not be denied that he understood the Tyranids as no other did. But as the Imperium would learn, understanding an enemy such as the Tyranids and controlling it are two equally impossible things.
True. That's very true.
Determined to provide his theories right, Kryptman planned to use a tendril of Leviathan to eliminate the Orc Empire of Octarius. The Imperium had long been embroiled in an ever-escalating war against the Orcs in this region of space.
Go Orcs!
Despite huge influxes of reinforcements, resources that Kryptman deemed would have been better served fighting the Tyranids. The Orcs were dominating the war. Kryptman's gamble was to change the balance of power forever. Enlisting aid from a squad of Death Watch Space Marines who still had faith in him, Kryptman captured a live brood of gene stealers and then loaded them onto Perdition's Flame, a space hulk that had emerged from warp space ahead of the approaching Hive fleet. As the Tyranids awoke from stasis, Kryptman destroyed the moon of Geist, and in doing so diverted the hulk's trajectory towards the Orcs. Within weeks, the Tyranid infestation had spread to dozens of worlds. The Hive mind had sampled a new feeding ground, and in response, a tendril of Leviathan veered towards Octarius. At first, it appeared that Kryptman's gamble had succeeded. As Tyranids and Orcs fought an endless war across the sector, the Imperium was content to let the aliens' forces wipe each other out.
Krypton does know that all the Imperium did was gift the Orcs, right? They just gifted them. But I know he's trying to kill two birds with one stone, but he does understand that the Orcs' mentality is, what a lovely gift. We have we can wog to our heart's content with the Tyranids. He does understand that, right? I mean, this is the Orcs we're talking about. Go Orcs. This is just a Tuesday for them facing off against the Tyranids. You know, just another rave party for them. Going full wog on the Tyranids. Like what, they're supposed to be scared of Tyranids? They just to the Orcs, the Tyranids is just another play toy. Until they get bored, which they don't.
However, both Orcs and Tyranids are races that thrive on war. Greenskins flocked to join the war from light years around, and every Orc devoured provided yet more biomass to feed the growing Tyranid swarm. It soon became apparent that Kryptman had only delayed the inevitable.
Yep.
For whichever aliens emerged from the conflict as victors would do so stronger than ever before.
Oh, yeah.
The Leviathan. The ultimate evolution. The Leviathan is the greatest Tyranid threat to assail the galaxy thus far. The largest and most fearsome Hive fleet ever recorded. So vast is its reach that seemingly no corner of the Imperium is safe, and with every passing year it thrusts more and more tendrils through the void, devouring entire sectors and civilizations, adding to its prodigious stocks of biomass. Yet it is not merely the size of the Leviathan that makes it such a formidable threat, but the accumulated lessons that the Hive mind has learned, bolstered by every previous Tyranid of the galaxy.
Experience is the key.
There are few foes that can surprise the Hive fleet, few tactics that will take it unaware, for the Tyranids have encountered them all. Leviathan's synaptic network is also more sophisticated than those of previous incursions, allowing the Hive mind to conduct uncannily coordinated combined assaults on land and from the skies. Attacking simultaneously on all fronts, with every organic tool at the Hive mind's disposal, Leviathan chokes and crushes the life from its prey before feasting on the ruined remains.
Wow, that's actually pretty courteous. I would have expected him to eat them alive. Now, just gave them a death before devouring them. That's very merciful. A merciful hive mind is scary. Like the Borg. They believed what they were doing was merciful. Ugh.
The sheer scale of the advancing Hive fleet poses another dilemma for its targets. Where Leviathan approaches, the shadow in the warp is magnified, and its reach extended, for the Hive fleet's synaptic network is far stronger than that of any other Tyranid host. The Imperium has suffered greatly due to this phenomenon, as communication is broken across vast swathes of its territory. When Hive fleet Leviathan's super swarms enter the battlefield, broods of zoanthropes and towering maleceptor organisms ensure that its nullifying aura stretch far indeed, smothering the latent abilities of any psychers who are sent against it and leaving its prey isolated and terrified. The war in Octarius. Cribman had lured Hive fleet Leviathan into Orc-held Octarius sector in the hope that the two alien species would annihilate each other. Where another race would have been terrified at the approaching swarm, the Orcs were jubilant. After all, they live for a good fight.
Yes.
Only time would tell if the warlike creatures had finally met their match.
Nope.
The first world of the Octara sector to feel Leviathan's hunger was Orok. Above the Orcs' settlements, thunder rumbled and the skies turned from blue to black as bioships entered orbit. Weird boy psychers began to gibber in fear. Something was crawling at the back of their brains, something with an infinite hunger focused upon the Orcs like the eye of a starving predator. Then the storm broke. Millions of warrior organisms swarmed across Orok. To the Orc mind, the best form of defense is to beat the enemy to death. So it was not long before a tide of greenskins crashed headlong.
A good defense is a good offense is the best defense.
Thousands of aliens of both races died in a matter of seconds as blades and fangs sank home. All semblance of strategy was lost, replaced by blind fury. But the Orcs' enthusiasm for war could not defeat the Tyranids' overwhelming numbers. By nightfall, every single greenskin on Orok was dead.
Dang.
Their bodies reconstituted and channeled back into the orbiting bioships to create yet more Tyranids. Death had come to the Octara sector.
Again, you make it sound like it's a bad thing for the Orcs. Death is just another thing. The fight was everything, and as long as the fight was good, the death was savored.
Dozens of worlds were soon crawling with Tyranids, and every time the skies darkened, the Orcs' planet side would give a great roar of delight, slapping each other on the back and grinning fiercely, as for once the fight came to them. The greatest battles centered on the planet of Octaria itself, the heart of the Orc Empire. Billions of Orcs and Tyranids clashed over Octaria's mountainous terrain, both forces sending a near-constant stream of reinforcements into a grinding war of attrition. The ground underfoot turned into a crimson mulch of spilt blood and alien ichor. It was total, unremitting, endless violence, and the Orcs loved it. The battle for Octarius continued to escalate, and neither side had a shortage of numbers. Orcs streamed in from distant sectors to join the fight of the century.
It's like rave party.
Bioships produced fresh waves of warriors as quickly as they could assimilate biomass. So it was that as the war on Octaria raged, Leviathan was forced to seek out nearby prey worlds whose biomass could be fed into the meat grinder. In their search, a handful of Leviathan's scout ships happened across the world of Gorala, a planet rich in biomass and base of Scarfang, pirate warboss of the dread Scar Fleet. This mighty, if ramshackle armada fell upon the bioships before they could react. The Tyranid fleet was all but destroyed under Scarfang's guns. However,
Damn.
carnage, a single bioship broke through the Orc blockade, pouncing on the planet as a starving man might snatch at a scrap of bread. Alien blood and viscera spilt into the vacuum of space, but in its death throes the bioship delivered several broods of Tyranids to the world's surface. Scarfang grew glum as he realized the battle was over, and he resolved to join the fight on Octaria, as the few Tyranids that had made planetfall were soon stomped out. For the first time since the Tyranids had invaded the Octaria sector, they found themselves embroiled in a war where they were vastly outnumbered by their prey. Scarfang's horde was mighty, and somehow the Tyranids sensed a war of attrition would only end in their demise. In response, the Gorala swarm adapted in order to survive. At first, the Tyranids stalked and preyed upon isolated Orc patrols, but the greenskins soon took to scouring the landscape in mobs too large for the fledgling swarm to face. Forced to abandon their guerrilla war, the Tyranids adopted an altogether more cunning strategy and engaged the Orcs in the open. The Tyranids attacked without thought of survival, every action aimed at maximizing the carnage.
Oh, the Tyranids got it.
Frenzied attacks, the Orcs' superior numbers gave them the advantage in these brutal skirmishes. Whenever the Tyranids were on the verge of being overrun, they would, in eerie unison, switch from hyperactive slaughter to hasty retreat.
Wow.
The Tyranids lurked in nearby cavern complexes, or else burrowed beneath the soil to shelter from pursuant search parties. In the dead of night, Synapse creatures remustered the scattered swarms of the corpse-choked battlefield. There, the Tyranids fed on Orc cadavers and Tyranid carcasses alike, before returning to digestion pools secreted in the planet's rocky messes. Slowly but surely, the Tyranids' numbers started to grow.
Oh?
As the Tyranid forces swelled, they changed their methodology yet again, growing more aggressive and seeking out larger concentrations of Orcs. The Tyranids' reward for their victories were ever-increasing masses of bio-resources. The increased violence soon attracted the bored Scarfang to the surface to join the fray. Wherever Scarfang's guttural war cry was heard, the Orcs attacked with renewed vigour. Even when the Tyranids looked to be on the cusp of victory, the war boss was able to turn the tide.
Yeah, that's what the war boss would do.
Threats encouraged the boys to get stuck back in. The Tyranids were being pushed back by the resurgent Orc front. Slowly the swarm was being trampled to death. Despite the Tyranids' earlier success, there was little chance that they could face a united Orc force of such magnitude and survive. While Scarfang lived, the Gorala swarm was doomed.
Yeah, it seems like the Tyranids hadn't figured out yet that the key factor was the war boss. If the war boss shows up, everything's gonna go to heck for them. I'm very surprised that their hive mind couldn't figure that part out. Wow, man, Tyranids were just Tyranids and Orcs are like Zap Brannigan's rule of war. Send wave after wave until one of them tires out. Problem is the Orcs don't tire out. Go Orcs.
In response, the Tyranids created lictors with the express purpose of eliminating the Orc war boss. Within days, the lictors had tracked their eminent quarry, but Scarfang's packs of
That's a weird name, lictors.
All attempts to get close enough to assassinate their target. Although eternally patient, lying in wait for a chance to strike down their target was a luxury the starving swarm could ill afford, so instead they created an opportunity. Following pheromone trails, a scuttling tide of Hormagaunts was thrown at the Orc lines. As the Orcs roused to man their rusty barricades, Tyranid warriors willed the scuttling masses to withdraw. Scarfang's frustration rose to infuriation as the Tyranids repeated these feints, approaching from different directions to within an arm's length, then withdrawing before the Orcs could retaliate. On the 10th such retreat, Scarfang's temper could take no more. With a roar, the Orc warboss ordered his mobs to pursue their retreating swarms. Soon, black smoke was belching skyward as battle wagons and trucks rumbled after the swarm. The Tyranids had succeeded in goading the warboss, separating him from the bulk of his forces and luring him into an ambush. The Tyranids had spawned broods of venomthropes to blanket the greenskins in a thick, toxic fog. As the Orcs pursued their quarry, they rode headlong into the sudden blinding mist. The entire convoy ground to a halt as vehicles skidded into rocky outcrops or else lost control and ploughed into each other. Coughing and hacking, those Orcs that hadn't choked on their own blood pulled themselves from the wreckage. Scarfang himself stumbled across the battlefield and happened across the tentacled warbeast responsible for creating the noxious cloud. As he vented his anger on the venomous creatures, the fog receded and the eviscerated corpses of Orcs surrounded the warboss. Lictors has stalked through the blinding cloud and dispatched the unwary greenskins one at a time until only Scarfang remained. The lictors closed on their true quarry, surrounding the warboss in deathly silence. Revving his chain blade into life, Scarfang charged the nearest with a roar of defiance. He managed 2 steps before a dozen mantis-like claws pierced his form.
Dang.
Tore him asunder.
Ah.
With Scarfang dead, it was not long before vying orc warbosses started fighting amongst themselves to feel the power vacuum.
No, see, they
The
finally
orcs were
figured
soon
it out.
divided, and the disparate bands became easy prey to the united Tyranid.
Yeah, they figured it out
Each
finally.
was isolated and destroyed in quick succession. Within days, the orcs of Gorala had been slaughtered like cattle. The Tyranids gorged themselves on their flesh. From the digested remains of Gorala, the Swarm created new bioships and set forth to rejoin the Hive fleet at Octaria, the biomass it had consumed destined to fuel the next phase of planetary invasion. Though the war for Octaria rages still, one thing is already clear. Despite the machinations of Krypton and the ferocity of the orcs, Leviathan shows no signs of stopping. The Tyranids are not only surviving the Octarian war, they are thriving in it. Indeed, the vast quantities of biomass that the war has generated are already being put to use by the Hive mind. Having already consumed the resources necessary to power its inexorable push towards the galactic core, Leviathan has begun to leave prey worlds behind for the next wave of the Tyranid invasion to consume.
Oh, so they're creating supply line, a supply line chain.
Feeding grounds for nascent hive fleets such as Hydra and Kronos. Even worse for the galaxy's warring races, tendrils of formidable Octarian Tyranids spawned from the most potent orc biomass are beginning to detach from the main host and push into new territories.
So they're here to stay.
End quote.
End quote.
This recounts
That was a whole quote.
wisdom and existing lore, but there is so much more. In recent releases, Gazgul Mag Uruk Thraka, the prophet of the Orc gods, Gork and Mork, has arrived at the Octarius war. His intervention and presence could lead to the escalation of the confrontation, but it has definitely swung it from an inevitable Tyranid victory into a tight-run thing. Both sides will seem to benefit from it at start, but the orcs at Octarius may well be teetering on the verge of a thing that has not happened for over 20 million years. They may reclaim their birthright and finally return to their ultimate state to evolve back into Croak.
Wow.
But even so, Leviathan is gaining fundamentally important DNA and experience in this war. Their tactics and strategy improving exponentially, and the beasts of war being improved by the hour. If the orcs should fail, then the Tyranids that come out of this war will be augmented to a level that may well be unstoppable, should even the Silent King, Tau, the Imperium and the Eldari entire all make common cause. If anything, this one confrontation could
I think
well
Krypton made a
decide the
miscalculated
fate of
error
the
here.
Entire galaxy. Now, I must conclude this entry, but do know that a future video will cover the other, most interesting and entrancing of the wars that Hive Fleet Leviathan now wages, that of the assault of Imperium Nihilus and their confrontation with the Blood Angels.
Blood Angels?
Gentle listener, I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant.
Yeah, big thanks to Baldermort's Guide to Warhammer for this video. This was pretty epic. I was it was very entrancing. I didn't even know that there was a war. I knew there was going. I knew Tyranids and Orcs had a war, but I didn't expect him to cover one of those wars. Now I'm gonna have to get the Orcs' perspective of the War of Octavia. Now that I got the Tyranids' perspective. That'd be a great way to finish this off. Looks like they had other battles, but I don't know what the heck a Blood Angel is. I may have to research that. Yeah, this was hilarious. Well, I wouldn't say hilarious because I wasn't laughing all the way. This thing was just so engrossing. It was epic, I gotta say. Really, really fantastic. this war between the orcs and the Tyranids. I can't explain it. All I know is that Krypton is an idiot. That he, for one who has done mass amounts of research into the Tyranids, did he not know what was going to happen should the Tyranids be eating up the orcs and absorbing everything that is the orcs? It took them quite a while too, honestly, to figure out taking out the war boss will completely mess up the whole entire WOG, and they could be able to overrun them. And jeez, and then not only that, but that put the orcs on the path of hitting Quark. That the Super Saiyan level of orc power. That would have been devastating for the whole galaxy, quite honestly, the whole entire Warhammer universe. You don't want the orcs to achieve that level. This was the Leviathans are pretty scary. Their reach out into the world is insane. I mean, just look at this. Just look at the size of this particular ship alone, and all of these are tiny next to it. That's frightening. And then the fact that they just completely strip the whole entire planet of every type of bio-life, all the way down to the water, like just turns the planet into a moon, essentially. I gotta say, it's very scary. And then there's the Lictus. I may want to look at that one. Looks like they may this might. I'm glad some more new information came out. I was a little worried there, but if there's a video on Lictus, I'll maybe then I'll get to do another one after War Octavia, because I'm definitely want to do War Octavia. I want to get the orcs perspective. Let me know in the comments which one has the orcs perspective of War Octavia. This was the Tyranids perspective. I didn't even expect them to cover an orc war. That's just so awesome. Go orcs. But yeah, this is pretty. It was pretty fascinating seeing how the orcs were really handling the Tyranids. It was just like the video, the other research video that I did, the orcs perspective. What they think of all the other races and their thoughts on the Tyranids is like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome. the second the orcs came into the picture, it's like, yeah. I'm glad that I went with the orcs first, honestly, because this just made it even more fun going through with the Tyranids here, and fun indeed that I'm having here. Something tells me the orcs really have a major influence on the whole universe than what is perceived. Lore Meisters did a great job. That was a pretty epic fight. So I want to get further in on War of Octavia, and Scarfang and so on. So I want the orcs perspective. I think that's gonna be the next go. And if there's a Lictus video, I definitely want to do that. So yeah, great job. Great job by Baldermort. Really enjoyed it. Very great storytelling. So he did a good job telling the story and really explaining it down. I was just completely engrossed. My whole brain was just focused. I barely had anything to say. It was just a fantastic. Oh man, but yeah. In terms of Games Workshop, their lore meisters writing this out, I can't imagine how difficult that might have been when you have two groups that have a hive mind mentality. I know people are going to sit there, oh, orcs don't have a hive mind, but no, they do have a quasi hive mind through the way of the WOG and their little spark. That they can really know when something big is happening, and then they all come like the Tyranids. They swarm on over as well, and now you have two swarms of one that's a whole hive mind, the other that's just addicted to fighting and everything, and being clashing with each other and such. And Scarfang is pretty epic all the way to the end. When his death caused all the war bosses to fight each other for for control of the whole WOG. It was very sad to hear. So yeah, it isn't easy. That isn't easy. That was not easy. Conjuring that up story wise, pretty impressive. You know, to just from what I got from Baldermort. So yeah. Yeah. Looks like got a couple of more videos rather than one more video. Lucky. All right, so head on over to Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and grab yourself a copy of The Impossible Man, a strange fantasy novel written by me. You'll find links to the book down in the description below, along with links to other merch such as pins, stickers, t-shirt, music. Enjoy the products. Thank you for your patronage. And if you have a copy of The Impossible Man and did a lore video on it, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on it. And if you're interested, you can join me on my live multi-stream on Twitch and Kick every Monday through Thursday, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I do lore research, Japanese culture studies, and gaming, plus more. Look forward to hanging out with you. So until the next round of Warhammer research, thank you all for joining me, and I wish you all a good night. Buenas noches, and oisu minasai.